Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the beautiful state of Montana. And I hope that you were spending time on the road on vacation. But at the same time, I hope you will find some time, some spare time where you can watch my podcast on the U.S. Constitution. If you're new to the podcast, I invite you to go back and take a look at the reasons why I launched this podcast and what we have done since then. And then you'll get a good idea of where I'm trying to go. And you'll also see that, I don't have any hidden motives or anything trying to do this. I just, I'm a teacher. I was taught, and that was my career, and that was much of my life. So teaching's kind of it's just internal now, and so got to continue to do it. But anyhow, with that, let me move on, and we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll go from there. So here we are. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now let's take a look back at episode 11. This, of course, is my episode 12 on the Beatitudes, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. But in the last podcast, we were talking about some of the parables that Jesus gave his disciples. And in those parables, he expresses, the meaning of that in the day-to-day real world of Jerusalem, but then in the spiritual context. And in doing so, he tunes us into some important virtues, moral values that we should hold as human beings. And so I encourage you to continue, discovering there's other parables with a lot of important meaning. Take a look at them, and you'll also begin to see how that plays into this idea of self-governance, not just on a national level, but on a personal level for you and I and your neighbors. With that said, I want to take a minute and go to the kids' corner. Remember last time I said my questions were I need to know the date of the founding of the Roman Republic and where that happened and when it ended. I thought we'd be there at this time, but I didn't finish on Jesus Christ. And so today I want to speak to the issue of the Sermon on Mount Olives, as they said, but they cut it short and say the Sermon on the Mount. And I got to go a little bit back into some of the history that was going on at the time with Jesus and his daily life before the Sermon on the Mount. If you remember, and I'm sure a lot of you know much more than I do, but that he had gotten into a scuffle with the Pharisees in the temple. He was outraged by the money lenders in this religious site, and he was turning over the tables and raised in the eyes of the Pharisees a ruckus. His name became known throughout the city and also reached to the highest authorities. The Roman general who was in charge, Pontius Pilate, and so his name was getting around, and people, in high places knew of his name. And so Jesus, knowing that his time is limited on this earth, and he wants to make sure he hits a home run when he gives his sermons and does it before many people. So his disciples went to Mount Olives in Galilee, and people knew about this. The word got out Remember, kids, back then they didn't have cell phones or computers or TVs. It was by word of mouth. And quickly the word traveled as to where Jesus was. And it's absolutely amazing. Theologians, historical theologians claim that there was more than 20,000 people who listened to these sermons. Um, let's say, well, they overhyped it. They hyped it and overestimated it, and there was only 15,000. That is an incredible number of people. Remember, they had to walk. They didn't take an Uber, they had to walk. And so that was a hardship on these people, but yet they did it because they wanted to see Jesus Christ face to face. So here we go. Let's go down this road and talk about the Beatitudes. Now, the word beatitude, I think the best connection there or meaning of that would say the blessings. Jesus gave blessings to the people and to those who were living a righteous Christian life as it began and and wanted to speak on that issue. And so he gave us a lot of moral teachings that day, many, many teachings that are profound and have whether you're Christian or not, you realize that these teachings had profound impact on not just the world at the time. Jesus wasn't speaking just to the crowd. He was speaking to future generation after generation after generation because these virtues are universal and they're forever. And so Jesus sat down and he began his teachings with these blessings. And he said a lot of, there was like, I don't know how the exact number, I think there was 9 or 10 that he went through. And I want to go through those with you and talk about them uh, in terms of what we're trying to do here. The first is blessed, Jesus said, blessed are the poor in spirit. He didn't mean these people were, just lacked any idea of morality or virtue. What he was saying is that these people had completed a checkup from the neck up and realized that they needed Jesus' teachings. They needed support. They needed guidance. And he said, "Blessed are they." And uh, there are so many people who are wandering and seeking and looking. They're talking to their friends and neighbors, um, and they just haven't bumped into Jesus yet in his teachings. And, hopefully they will for everyone's sake. The next one that I want to mention is the blessed of the mourn. Mourn? Yeah, mourn, weeping, crying. Um, well, he said, these are people who mourn the sin in the world, the violence in the world, the hate, the rage in the world, and most importantly, the injustice, the social injustice, as they like to say today, in the world. And uh, he said that they are blessed by, as we'll see later on, putting that relevance in their lives. Okay. The next is blessed are the meek. And I don't know, I had a misunderstanding of that until I did some research. And the meek is not the weak. The meek are strong. They're strong in their convictions. They're strong in their moral and in morality and integrity. They are strong, but they're not um, dominant. They don't try to control other people by what they say. They speak with humility and with confidence that what they are saying is, is correct, um, in guidance with the fundamental principles of Christianity. Okay? Um, Another one that Jesus brings to us at that time, and I got to look, it's a long list here. Um, Blessed are the righteous. Blessed are the righteous. Okay, what did Jesus mean by that? Well, the righteous, in his opinion, were those who were seeking God's grace, that were reaching out, again, like we said earlier, reaching out for support. Um, and we can see those people around us today. And it's not righteousness for righteousness' sake. They don't have this big ego. They are simply trying to use all of these virtues in a way that will make our communities have a little more harmony, less divisiveness, and less hate and rage. The next one. Blessed are the peacemakers. Those we think of on a national level. Blessed are the peacemakers. Nations, like people, get angry at each other. That anger can boil over. One can step over the line too far, and the two nations are at war. That means death, destruction, killing, mayhem, all kinds of bad things happening. And he said, "Blessed are those world leaders that seek peace and reconciliation." And and that is so important. I remember back in the day, people used to think of Jimmy Carter as being that kind of person, as a peacemaker. Um, I think of in other earlier times, um, people like John F. Kennedy. I think that he was strong. He tried to be understand that he had millions and millions of American lives in his hands, and he wanted the world to live in peace and order. Uh, we have tried to show ourselves to the world as a peace-loving country. Unfortunately, for a lot of different reasons, we've been involved in too many turmoils, and we'll be talking about those things. But these peacekeepers um, have important ties to these values that we're talking about. One of the earliest, believe it or not, one of the earliest, the first, was George Washington. In a farewell address, he told the public, he warned them of engaging in entangling alliances with the European countries. At that time, France and England had for centuries been bitter enemies, one war after the other, sucking in these other countries and allies to fight on their behalf. And Washington said, no, 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 wait a minute, time out, time out. We're a young nation. We don't need to get embroiled in their conflicts. So he was a messenger of peace. Abraham Lincoln, he wanted to avoid war at all costs. But rage, rage politics, hate, uh, and all of these growing cultural differences based on slavery um, engulfed the nation in a civil war. and that was breaking for him. And I recently read some stuff about after the weeks after the war, before his assassination, and how happy and open he was to the public. He addressed the public from his balcony. He walked the streets with his wife. People congratulated him as a peacekeeper. And so, blessed are the peaceful peacekeepers. Next. Blessed are the pure of heart. Who are those people? Pure of heart. They're the ones whose convictions and motives are sincere. They have sincerity. They're speaking from their heart when they say, very simply, I love you. I love you a lot. And they know that. They feel that. And that purity of heart, Jesus said that too many hearts are hardened. Too many people are cut off from God for one reason or the other. Maybe it was something said by a priest, a pastor, or whoever, and maybe lumped criticism right at them that they thought was unfair. And so they cut off the relation with Jesus. And they need to have that forgiveness in their lives, and they need to have that reconciliation. Another one is blessed are the merciful. Okay, this is preeminent in Jesus' teaching. We make mistakes all the time, and we have to forgive and forget. Okay, I mean, it's right in our Father's prayer. It's right there for us to say each and every day, and we have to push that pause button and just go, okay, I forgive you. Hey, let's move on. Talk about it if we must, but we got to overcome this to rebuild that relationship. That's also what nations have to do. I would really love to have the opportunity to tell Vladimir Putin in that horrible war in Ukraine now, be remembered as a peacekeeper and not a warmonger. Save lives, Russian lives as well as Ukrainian lives. And I would pray that he would do that and be known in the end days for him as a peacekeeper. Okay? Now, in our own lives, mercy, being merciful, I, I, I look at that, and I think that, when someone does us wrong, they lie to us or deceive us, um, they tell us they're going to do something and they don't. And sometimes they have good cause and they get back to you and say, hey, man, I'm really sorry. Okay, so that's it. We accept it and move on. But we have all, in God's eyes, we have all sinned, and we need that mercy. But that mercy can't just be, asking for God's forgiveness. It's got to come, but it's got to come between the people that your family and friends, and I know family members that won't talk to other family members or they've cast them aside. That is horrific, in my opinion. You just don't do that. You've got to find some common ground. With friends, at times, talking about whatever issues might be, personal, social, political, whatever, things get a little heated and feelings are hurt, and that can interrupt a relationship or destroy it altogether. And we have to, as adults, as young adults, we have to just step back and suppress our egos and go, yeah, okay, hey, look, I made a mistake. I'm sorry for what I've said. I hope you will forgive me and let's move on. I want to be your friend. And I think that mercy is one of the central themes of Jesus when he talks about the Beatitudes. Let's see if I can find another. And I think this was lastly, I don't know, but it's yet another of the blessings, um, and that is uh, the the blessing the blessing of the persecuted. Now, kids, when you're persecuted, that means people are attacking you for your ideas, whatever they may be. If you have strong religious convictions and you're talking about your religion, or maybe you're wearing your cross outside of your blouse or outside of your shirt, you're wearing that, and people see it, and they tell you to put it away, or they tell you to take it off, or why do you believe in that nonsense, et cetera, et cetera. They are persecuting you. And that persecution can really hurt, especially when you believe in something so deeply. And I don't care whether that you're Christian or you're Jewish or you're Muslim or you whatever, but when you attack someone's religion, um, that is a personal insult on them, and it can be extremely harmful. Um, but Jesus says, when you walk with me, you're going to be persecuted. You will be. And if you look back through history, oh, oh boy. I mean, when Jesus was put up on the cross and he died for our sins, trust me, they went looking for their disciples and they found a few of them, and those too were executed. They went finally, Peter and other disciples, they moved the church to Rome or talk about moving the church. And over time, they do move because this becomes an underground thing where persecution was horrific. And, many more of them were put up on the cross. And down through history, we see more of this persecution, and on it goes, right down to the present time, when people laugh at you because of your Christian values, and Jesus says, stand firm, show your humility, turn a cheek, don't try don't your first response is not rage, reaching out and harming them or hitting them or whatever. No, uh, we we must restrain ourselves and have self-control. Okay, I just want to check here. Bear with me. I just want to check to see if I left one out. I think that I've covered some of the more important points here on this subject. Um, but what I guess the point is, what's the relevancy in today's world? Well, guess what? Just before this podcast, I was listening to the news, and two uh, employees who were friends. I didn't look at the details, but they got in a spat, and one viciously killed and murdered the other. We see this over and over and over again, um, um, on television and unfortunately in real life. But I want to share one with you that reached to the heart of my family. My mother called me while I was at college and says, "I got bad news, Dennis." And I go, "What's that?" And she goes, "Well, Jenny's husband was murdered." I go, "What?" Jenny was my mom's best friend who lived right across the street. I go, "What happened?" And she said, "Well, we were playing cards the night before, and Jenny went home. She says, 'I'll be over for coffee in the morning.' She didn't come. My mom got worried, went over, knocked on the door, no answer. The door wouldn't open, no answer. She went back, thought about it for a while, and then she called the sheriff. When they broke in, her oldest son, who was in his 20s, was bleeding to death on the floor. They went in the bed. They went in the bedroom, and I got that wrong. It wasn't Jenny's husband. It was Jenny who got murdered. That's insane, right in our neighborhood. And come to find out, this was a quarrel that happened between her husband and another man at work. And he said, "I'll get even with you." And so he started that night by torching a trailer across the street. Um, exact motive why he did that to bring that into this whole drama, I don't know. Um, but uh, if if her husband had maybe been had a little more humility, maybe this could have been avoided. Maybe tempers would not have gotten out of control. I don't know. It's all speculation. But unfortunately, my mom lost a very close friend, and it's just terrible. So, and that was in a rural community that you would think something like that would never happen. And yet today we're seeing it much more frequently. All the time we're seeing harm and bad things happen to people. And it can only be corrected by having strong moral values. Those are the teachings of Jesus Christ. Now, on some other notes here relating to these things of the relevancy, like Jesus said, we have to be merciful, we have to be kind and have compassion for other people's feelings. But when we do that, we got to have sincerity. It's got to come from the heart. You just can't play it up. People spot that in a minute. You have to be sincere about it and that you want to help them. And the people who need help are all around us. We see it all the time. People asking for, a buck or two or maybe some food or whatever it is. And we're seeing more and more and more of these struggles. And we must have generosity to give and give out to those needs. So the moral teachings there are many, and we hopefully as we move forward now, you will begin to see the connection here of the various political philosophers that we're talking about as we move down the road onto the next venture. Remember that you are with the Corps of Discovery, or the Corps of Engineers, as Jefferson called them, but we are the second Corps of Discovery. We're not looking for land. We're looking for the principles of republicanism and democracy that gave us one of the greatest political documents that the world has ever seen. And we need to protect it. We need to defend it. We need to stand for it and have that courage going forward that we are doing the right thing. Not a message of rage and and criticism, but in a way of being justified because it's in the right. It's the right thing for all of us. We are all Americans. We are all entitled to the protections of the Constitution, as we'll talk about. And so we must take a stand. As Aaron Tippin said, you got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. So as you put together, kids, your moral compass that we've talked about, and I hope you've done that, um, I want you to use it. Don't just put it on your wall and forget about it. You remember those things when you go to school. Remember those things when one of your friends gets mad at you, and try to figure out a way in the week or days to come to mend the fence and go on. And I hope that they will do the same. So use that compass, kids, and put it together. Talk to your parents about it. And again, if you've enjoyed my podcast, um, I would like you to again ask 5 friends or neighbors. Hey, listen to this old man. He's crazier than hell, but listen to him. He has something to say, and get them on my podcast, because this is simply a class in the United States Constitution. Yes, we'll get there, but we have a road to go down, and we will do that. But I hope that the rest of you will join this the second Corps of Engineers, and we are on the USS Constitution. We took off from Boston and we headed into the Mediterranean. We're visiting our different sites, and now we have yet another piece of the puzzle. We have the puzzle piece from Moses, from Socrates, from Aristotle, Plato, Jesus, and now we will move on and find more of the pieces of puzzle that gave us our Republican principles, so that our founders could put these together in not a perfect union, but in a very good union. On that note, I hope you have a great day out there. Thanks for listening, and I hope there's table talk. Sit around the table, talk to your kids in the evening about these ideas. Um, do some research on your own. Maybe listen to someone else's podcast. Wherever you go, there is a lot of information on the Constitution, and I'm sure that many of you know a lot more than I do. So we're learning all the time. Until podcast 13, this is episode 12. Tomorrow, or the next one, will be episode 13. Until then, I hope you have a great day. Stay safe, and remember to take your moral compass with you when you go to work, when you go to school, or when you're out on the road. Thank you, and have a great day.